Hi, it's Martin and welcome to another video on my Knit365 YouTube channel. Today's video is a bit of a Q&A. Not a bit of a Q&A, it is a Q&A. So, it is currently Bank Holiday Monday here in the UK. We have the final bank holiday, before Christmas. Yay! Big Christmas fans. So it's Monday, we're not in work. I'm actually not in work all week. I've got the week off. Very excited. Haven't had a proper week off for a while. We're going to do like the life admin, like the car needs to be MOT'd, it needs to be cleaned. I want to sort through some clothes and take some things to the charity shop. Like all the things you don't really get time to do in the week when you're working, and I've got band and all the rest of it. So really looking forward to having a week off. And I've made some really good progress in the last week. So I wanted to do a video to show off what I've been working on, but it's the same two things that were in last week's video. And my super exciting special video, that's now going to come later in this week. So you're going to get two videos this week. I think the video is going to be up on Thursday. It may be Friday, but it's definitely coming. I want to put the video live to correspond to a special launch. Most of you, or some of you may know if you follow Toft. I will talk a little bit about this in a moment. So there's going to be that special video coming later in the week, but I did think that was originally coming today. And I was like, oh, what am I going to talk about? Because I've got some progress to show, but not a lot else. I know, I'll do a Q&A. So I did one of those ask me anything question thingies on an Instagram story, and I've had, no word of a lie, loads of questions. We may not get through all of these questions in one video. I'm going to see. You know, I'd kind of like the videos to be around an hour mark. So we'll see how we get on. I'm going to have to try and keep some of the answers short because you know I can waffle. So let's just quickly check in with I've got a few things to show off to correspond to some of the questions. But let's just show some progress then for what I've been working on in the week. So I've been plugging away at the Madeline cardigan, which is a pattern by Sarah Hatton for West Yorkshire Spinners. So this is for our youngest niece, Thea, niece 3. She's the youngest, though. She's number 4. We've got 3 nieces and a nephew. Niece, niece, nephew, niece. I don't think I've ever said it like that before. Anyway, so this is a jacket. If you're new here, then you won't have seen this before. Hi, welcome. This is a jacket that you knit. So these are the fronts, and it's a cardigan. So you knit it in one piece. Bottom up, and then you join in the sleeves. So I'm using some West Yorkshire Spinners Bo Peep yarn. This is the Dancing Bluebells colourway, and I was very kindly gifted this wool by West Yorkshire Spinners. I'm a big fan of their Bo Peep yarn. So I showed this off last week. I was still doing the decreases. I've now finished all of the decreases for the shaping, and it is now just straight up for another 20 centimetres or so, I think. So I've been plugging away at that a little bit. What I have been working on mostly, though, is my Mcal. So my Mystery Knit-Along Stephen West Geogradient shawl from last year's Mystery Knit-Along. And I think when you saw this last, I don't know if I'd started. I think I might have just started the wingtip. Excuse the ends. I've not sewn any ends on this yet, including in the middle section. I don't know why I didn't do this and sew in ends as I was going. So that's going to be a fun task. But I finished the wingtip on the one side. We've got this lovely slip stitch pattern that you can see alternates the direction. So I finished wingtip 1. And I am here on wingtip 2. Weirdly, I was talking to some knitting friends about this. I actually think it's quicker the second time round. I remember knitting it the first time round and going, this is quite hard going. This is going to be a really difficult week. It felt like it was really slow going, but that went quite quickly. That was only a couple of days worth of knitting. Was it a couple of days worth of knitting? Oh, a couple of nights worth of knitting. Yeah, I figure like when you get to about here, obviously you're decreasing every time you knit on a wrong side row. And when you get to about here, it then kind of flies quite quickly. So I've made some really good progress. So this is the Geo Gradient Shawl by Stephen West. This was last year's Mystery Knit Along. There are some questions about the Mystery Knit Along, which we'll come on to. So I'm really pleased with progress. But you've seen this shawl a lot before. And that's basically it. That's all I've got to show you. So we are currently on 6 minutes. I've done the introduction, I've shown what I've been working on, and I've not finished anything. So it's like, it's going to be a really short video, or maybe I just won't do one. But it's Bank Holiday Monday, we're not going anywhere today, we're having a bit of a lazy day. So I thought, let's get some questions, and often I get questions in the comments below, and I don't always have a chance to answer them. So I've kind of got all the questions that I think you'll folks want to know, and we'll go through them. I said I have got a few little knitting and crochet items to show off, not many, just a couple, which I'll use for some of the answers. But if you are new here and you are here for knitting content, hop back and watch some of the previous videos, because there will be a lot more knitting content and crochet content in those videos. So hi, if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We're getting closer to 10,000 subscribers. Wow. If you're a returning viewer, hi, welcome back. It's lovely to have you here. And I hope that you find some things interesting in this video. Apparently people want to know a little bit more about Mark and I. And some really interesting some really interesting questions. So hopefully this will be a fun video. I'm going to have to get quicker though, because we're already on 7 minutes. I said I don't want this to be an hour or longer. And we've got a lot of questions to get through. So, slurp of coffee. I took too big a slurp. Right, let's get into it. So, I've kind of broken them into categories. So we've kind of got us, general life stuff, Mcal, favourites, and then I wasn't really sure where to categorise them, so I've kind of put them in a quick fire at the end. But there's only 4 quick fire ones. So let's get into it. So the first couple are similar, and I've put a little tick box so I can tick them off so I know where I am. I think that's clever. It's probably not. How did you get into knitting and crochet, and who taught you to knit and crochet? So I'm going to keep this answer very brief, because there is a video on the channel that talks about how I got into knitting and how I got into crochet. I will link them in the description box below, but I basically am self-taught as a knitter, and I learned when my brother and his wife were pregnant with niece number 1. My grandfather used to be the knitter of the family, and I made a joke with my nan about me learning, and she was telling people that I was going to learn to knit. So as not to disappoint my grandmother, I got some needles of my grandfather's, because he'd sadly passed away before niece 1 was born. And I sat down in front of YouTube and I taught myself. There's a bit more story in the very first video, which I went back to watch just now to make sure that I did cover it. And oh my word, that video, that's not a good video, really. Like, there's a beard and there's lots of ums and ahs, and the music goes on slightly too long. And it was my very first video. So I'll link that below if you want to know a little bit more about me, the background and the introduction to kind of the channel and all that kind of stuff. And then there is a Toft video where I talk about the reasons I learned to crochet. So I will link that video there as well. This one, I feel like someone's bringing the chaos with this question. Knitting or crochet, which do you prefer? I really don't know if I could choose one. I think they're both obviously different. And I'm not sure that I could choose one. I often describe myself as a knitter who crochets. And I think if you put two projects in front of me with no deadlines and I was allowed to just pick one up, I would probably go for the knitting. So I guess that's probably the answer. I would probably say knitting over crochet, but there are something, I think it depends on the pattern as well. I'm not a great crocheter of flat projects, straight lines, the edge in crochet, we're not good friends. It'll do this and I've got to put a stitch in the turning chain. And so I prefer knitting shawls, for example, flat as knitting rather than say crocheting flat. But I think that's probably just a lack of practice, that I don't do it enough. So what I do prefer crocheting is amigurumi, so the toff style of, no, the birds are out of shot. She's here, we'll show her later. Mandy. I prefer this style of crochet for toys and different things like that. So I think I would probably say knitting over crochet, but I do feel like it's quite a chaotic question, like trying to pick your favourite child. Let's stick with knitting. Okay, if you're called Welsh tenor, why do you play cornut in a band? Now, this might be a band person that asked this rather than a knitter, but it does come up a little bit. So the channel here is called Knit365, but over on Instagram and Twitter and Threads and pretty much everywhere else that you need a username for, I'm Welsh tenor. And that was from literally like 25 years ago that I needed to create an Instagram. I needed to create a name for like an online forum that was to do with brass banding. And I was playing tenor horn at the time. I'm Welsh, I was playing tenor horn, Welsh tenor. And it's just stuck. I learned to play cornet while I was in school, and probably when I was 7 or 8. And I played cornet for many, many, many years. And then I joined a band and we needed a horn player, and I like to think of myself as a team player. So I took one for the team and I moved over to horn, and I stayed on horn for about 10 years. And then I've kind of dipped in and out, cornet, horn. I don't play anything else. And I think I probably would prefer now playing horn than cornet. But that's where the tenor comes from. Often people say, oh, you're Welsh, do you sing? Absolutely not. I can do a mean defying gravity in the shower. When I'm alone, Mark will support that I am not a singer. So yeah, that's where the tenor comes from, that it was tenor horn. But I'm currently back on cornet. And I play in a brass band, and I have played in brass bands since I was in school. We compete all around the country. I've been incredibly lucky to play in all the major brass band competitions. I've played in the Europeans. With my band, we were Welsh, and we went to represent Wales. I've played in the national finals in the Royal Albert Hall 9 times or 11 times. I always forget. Like, a lot of times. I'm very, very privileged to have been able to do that. And I love brass banding. It now interferes with my knitting time. And I do get a little bit moany. I'm like, I'm going to leave band again. I like to retire every 12 months or so, and I have a couple of months off. It gets a lot. There's a question about that later, about how you fit everything in. Yeah. I'm not quite ready to retire again just yet, but it's like, oh, I could really just sit in the house and knit today instead of going to band. But here we go. That's the Welsh tenor. I've got a confession for this next question. This could have been in the quickfire round, but I've left it here because it's kind of linking more about me, Mark. Barrabrith or Welsh cakes? Now, Welsh cakes, I've shown those off before, I think, in previous videos. They're like, if you are not, I was going to say if you're not in the UK, but maybe the English people must know what Welsh cakes are. They are like a scone or a scone. It's basically flour and butter mixed together to make breadcrumbs. Add in some sugar and a little bit of milk to bring it together into a dough. Roll it out, roll them really thin. Whereas a scone or a scone, you then put in the oven to bake. A Welsh cake, you have like a metal pan, like a griddle, like a flat base pan that you put onto the hob, and they're griddled, so they're kind of dry fried. Don't think fry though, like with oil. Like they I don't know how to describe it. They're cooked on a hob, on the cooker, and and then, yeah, cooked on a metal plate. That's a Welsh cake, whereas a scone is cooked in the oven. Bara Brith is like, it's like a tea cake. So it's a fruit cake. Describe it as a fruit cake, but it's a little bit of a wetter. I'm not doing this very well. So my confession basically is I don't think I've ever had Bara Brith, which as a Welsh person probably is wrong. Mark, have you had Bara Brith? Once, maybe. It's like a traditional Welsh loaf. I think so. It's like a tea cake. So if you imagine, if you've been here for a while, you watch the Vlogtober videos when I make the Christmas cake, it's like an old traditional fruit cake recipe. A Bara Brith is very similar, but I don't think I've ever had one. Maybe I could ask Mark to make one in Vlogtober and we'll do a Bara Brith versus Christmas cake. Are you listening to that? Yeah. Can we do that, please? Lush. We'll do a Bara Brith versus Christmas cake in Vlogtober. So the answer to that question will be Welsh cakes. Because I don't think I've ever had a Bara Brith. Okay, so the next one. These are coming kind of on a bit of a theme now about what do I want to do next. So we've got, what's the 2 to 5 year plan for Knit 365? That assumes there's a plan. There's absolutely not a plan. And then it's things like, would you run another Mcal or mystery knit along like I did with the Do Not Disturb shawl? Would you become a designer? And there's one about, would you be a dyer? So the 2 to 5 year plan, there isn't one. And I genuinely joke. If you go back and watch that first video, I couldn't watch all of it. I think it's only like 7 minutes. I watched a bit of it and actually Martin from however many years ago that was, says, I'm not going to become one of those YouTubers that has a big following. And I joke at the beginning of the video, you know, please hit that subscribe button. I'm nearly at 10,000. It still blows my mind today that I get to do this and podcast and do a YouTube and share what I'm doing with everyone. And it was really just an extension of a written blog that I was doing at the time to almost keep myself accountable for all of my crafting. And we were in lockdown. Everyone was starting a podcast in lockdown. We had nothing to do, nowhere to go. It was brilliant for knitters or crocheters, right? Because we just got to sit at home and knit. But it started really organically, and it was just a way for me to monitor my progress and keep me accountable to make sure that I was working on projects. And I would never have planned that it got to this today. And what I like to try and think of is it's all quite natural. And I joke if I make a little mistake and I go, blah, 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 and I'm not editing that out, like you kind of see me warts and all. So I hope you realize it's not a stylized blog. Like I'm just in my flat at home. And the products and the things that I talk about are things that hopefully are quite natural, that they're things that I love, or they're brands that I love, designers, dyers, makers. I want to share with you the things that I'm working on, basically. And as long as folks keep watching the videos, I've said this many times, I'll keep making them. And I really do enjoy it. And it helps me. Sometimes I'm at work and I work an office job and I like, oh, that would be a great idea for the video. So it kind of helps motivate me that I get home like, right, I'm going to do this video or I'm going to do that. And I've had so many wonderful opportunities through this channel that it's just developed from there, like meeting Irina and from the Fiber Chats podcast here on YouTube, and someone recommended that, so she does Fiber Chats. Irina interviews people in makers, normal people like me, designers, and as well, and a few people had suggested that she might interview me. So she messaged me, we started chatting, and now we're going to be coming into our 3rd year of the Humans of West Knits, Fiber Chats, Knit 365, Mystery Knit Along collab. And it's just, that just developed and it's got bigger and bigger every year. My love of Toft has just grown from me being this little fanboy chatting about, oh, I love this brand, let me talk to you about this, to go into the Q workshop and being able to wear the apron and help out as like a little intern for the day. So the plan for the 2 to 5 years, there isn't really a plan, as in 5 years time I want to do that. I just want to keep having fun, and hopefully you folks see that I am having fun with this. And I said, if you keep watching videos, ask for certain video types. If there's things that you like, things that you don't like, I'm kind of open to feedback. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Would I consider doing another knit along? Absolutely. So 2 years ago, I worked with a lady called Hannah, who is a crochet designer, and Louise, who is a knit designer. And I asked if they would be kind enough to collaborate together and come up with a shawl pattern that looked similar in knitting and crochet. And I worked with Gemma, one of my very good dyer friends from the Little Grey Girl, and she developed a colorway, and I kind of produced it and kind of coordinated all together. And we all knit and crochet the same shawl, and we had a wonderful time. And I would absolutely love to do more. It takes a lot of work when you need to approach the designers and explain about like how will they make money, because ultimately I didn't make any money from that. That was all about raising awareness for designers. But you know, you get people on board, and then you find the dyer. It takes a long time. What will the dye process look like? You know, is it a speckle? Is it a variegated? What pattern are they going to create? Do they want something that's like a solid? Like, all of that work needs to go into it. So absolutely want to do another one. Have talked to some dyers about what we could do. I have an idea that I've talked about. I don't know when it's going to come. I need to find time to produce it again. So I don't think I would personally, one of the questions was, would I ever become a designer? I don't think so. There's no burning, like I don't have a jumper in my head that I need to get out, or a specific hat pattern. I'm not sure. Like, again, never say never. Like, I can, at some point I might go, oh, do you know what? I really want a hat, but I can't find X hat. So I might come up with a hat pattern. Like, there are so many amazing designers out there that I love to go to, that you folks could go to. And it's really lovely that people asked, would I design something? I'll never say never. Again, there's no real plan. We'll see. Maybe that will be navigated to around. The dyeing one, absolutely not. I have so many dyer friends who are absolutely amazing at what they do, and I take my hat off to them. But I don't feel like I could probably have a go at designing. I could say, I want to do a hat, and I could cast something on, have a play with some stitches. I can do that with just some yarn and some needles. To become a dyer, I feel like you need equipment. You need a pan and dye and citric acid and bare naked yarn, and like, you need things. If you're going to become a dyer, you've kind of got to invest a little bit into that. It isn't something that just you Joe Public can just jump on. And we all know I get very, very distracted. So in the same way that Mark is absolutely right, if I have a spinning wheel, I probably won't use it, because I'll get frustrated with it in the early days, and I'll go, I'm not as quick as I thought I would be. And it'll just become an ornament in the corner of the flat, and I'll want to get back to my knitting. I feel like dyeing would be exactly the same. I feel like you've got to invest in it. And personally, I'm not invested in it enough to invest in it, if that makes sense. I've got some amazing dyer friends who I'm really lucky that they've got a separate WhatsApp group for the jumper. That I bought some undyed yarn at the Wonderwall Yarn Show, and I bought 6 skeins for the jumper, and Nick, Gemma and Kitey, Cool Woolens, Little Grey Girl, Yarn Whisperer, are dyeing 2 skeins each. Nick's gone first, she's got her 2. She's sending her 2 to Kitey so he can see what she's done, and then Kitey's going to send the 4 to Gemma for her to do the last 2. Like, I think that is now underway. But like, I've got some amazing friends who will do things like that. And if there's like a specific colour, I'm like, I really, really want this colour, I think I could approach them and say, could you dye this, like a custom batch order? And I feel like I leave it to the professionals, because I'm just not sure I would get into it. So yeah, so I don't think I will be becoming a designer. I don't think I'll be becoming a dyer. There is no real plan. as you could possibly see from this video now, it's feeling a bit chaotic. But yes, stay tuned. And if there are things that I've done in the past that you'd like me to keep doing, or you've got ideas for things for me, please leave them in the comments below. I really love to be able to make videos that you folks want to watch. Oh, there was the dying. I was like, there's a dying question. I couldn't find it. It was the next one. Will you ever bring back the project blogs you used to do? Actually, on content, yes, absolutely. One of the things I did quite early on in my YouTube, again, was filmed segments of videos over, say, 3 or 4 months. And actually, I cast it on, and then every couple of days or couple of weeks, depending on how much progress I'd made, would record a little bit of footage. So actually, you can go and watch the video where I made the unbearable hoodie for Niece 2, and you see me casting on all the way through to Olivia wearing it. I have a couple already underway. You also know I get very easily distracted at the moment with a lot of whips, so I don't make as much progress on some of those. But yes, definitely, I want to do more project videos, and there are a few already in the filming. I will only say that. So they will be coming up in various intervals throughout the next couple of months, hopefully. Would you like to knit, crochet, or craft for a living? No, I think is the answer. I was talking about this with, who was I talking? Reese, Glasgow Yarn, on Instagram. Yes, it was definitely Reese. I'm trying to think of who's Glasgow Yarn. Hi, Reese. And we were talking about, I don't know how we were talking about it, but I was like, if I did it as a living, I don't know how much fun it would be. In as much as, say that I was a designer, I'd have to keep coming up with designs to release patterns because that was part of my income. I'm incredibly fortunate that I have a full-time job. I work in an office, I go out to work, I come home. This is my creative outlet. This is my downtime. This is how I relax after work or make plans to do yarn shows and things on the weekend. It's a creative outlet that is fun and enjoyable. And I'm absolutely not suggesting that if you run a yarn related business, you don't have fun and it's not enjoyable. But I worry that financially there would be more of a pressure that, because you're self-employed, and it's probably not the same just for yarn people. You know, if you are self-employed, you run your own business, I absolutely take my hat off to you, because you are your own boss, which is ultimately the best thing ever, I guess. I have a really lovely boss. I'm very lucky, but I have bosses and directors. And if you work for yourself, amazing, you are the boss, but also you are the boss and the buck stops you. So you have to put your marketing hat on, your sales hat on, your risk hat on, your HR hat on. And I just feel like I have so much fun doing this, and I'm incredibly lucky that I have a full-time job that enables me to do this. But I don't think I would ever want to do it for a full-time living, because I worry that it wouldn't be as fun. And if I just sit on the sofa and go, oh, I'm really tired, I'm not going to do any crafting tonight. And I've said to some folks before, there's not been a video because I've not really made anything, or I've not knit on anything that week. Great, I've got the luxury of being able to do that. And I think if I work for myself, I'd have to be really self-motivated, and I'd have to push myself to keep going. And yeah, I'm not sure that that's me. I've worked for the same company for 26 years, so I'm probably a bit institutionalized now as well, that I kind of like, oh no, I don't think I could work for myself. So no, that is my answer. I would not like to do this for a living. That was a really neat segue though, and I didn't do it like that. What do we do for a living? I'm not going to go into specifics or details. I work for a high street bank here in the UK. I work with a team of project managers. We fix problems for customers. Imagine customer services dealing with complaints. It's kind of proactive complaints. So we know that something's gone wrong before the customer does, and then we fix it. It's the best job I've ever done at the bank. I've worked there, I said 25, 26 years, and it's the best job I've done. I love it. I have a large team. I manage a team of 40 people. I love the people aspect. I love being a leader. That's the bit that really motivates and inspires me. Being able to work with a great team. So that's what I do. That's kind of all I want to say. I don't want to divulge anything else. And Mark is an executive assistant. So he works for a director and supports them and their leadership team. He is incredibly organised, as I'm sure you've got I'm the crazy chaotic one. Mark is very ordered and structured, and we work really well together, or play off each other really well. But yeah, Mark is an exec assistant, and I guess you would say a program manager or like a project manager. So yeah, that's what we do for the living, and crafting is my creative outlet. Baking especially, and cooking is Mark's, and we eat incredibly well, which doesn't always tie in with the healthy eating, because I come home and he's made this like amazing like sourdough, and I'm like, oh, I'm not meant to eat carbs this week. Go on, I'll have a small slice. But Mark doesn't knit or crochet. That was one of the other questions. I've tried to teach him a little bit. He kind of knows the basics, he just doesn't enjoy it. He loves baking. I've got him to do some bargello and do a bit of sewing. He did textiles in school, so he can use a sewing machine. So he is creative and bakes best cakes, and does all icing. And he did like my brother's engagement cake, and he does cakes for birthdays. And so yeah, he bakes for family and friends. So that's his creative outlet. But no, he doesn't knit or crochet. And I'm like, when I was making Morag, you can't see the big coup up on the wall. I was like, yo, have a go at doing this, because it's on an 8mm hook. It's really chunky. He's like, no, absolutely not. So there we go. What did you study in college or university, and how did you and Mark meet? I haven't been to college or university, so I am street smart. I did A-levels in school. I have no idea what the A-level equivalent is elsewhere around the world. So you have GCSEs in the UK, and then you study that until 15, I think, 15, 16. So you do your exams, then you go on to the sixth form to study A-levels for 2 further years, and then you leave school at 17, 18. And then I went straight to work. So I started work for my company. At that point, it was meant to be a 6-month placement. I thought I might be a teacher and go to university. I was a bit studied out. I was like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm going to take 6 months away. My auntie worked for the bank, said they were taking people on a temporary contract. So I applied and I was successful. And 25, 26 years later, I'm still there. So I don't have a degree. I've got A-levels, and I have done some professional studies. So I've got like a risk diploma. I've got a marketing diploma. I've done some studies at work that have enabled me to get some like professional qualifications in my industry, but I don't have a degree. And Mark and I met. We met online on an online dating website. None of the apps, this swiping malarkey. You had to send someone an email and then wait like 2 days for them to reply and then answer them again. Like, it was really old school. And it turned out that he worked in my building at the same bank. I was flicking through profiles. I was like, I know that person. Messaged him, and we'd been in the same building for 5 years, had walked past each other, but had never, we worked in different parts of the building. We worked in different divisions at the bank. So we'd never have naturally come across each other. And yeah, he was there all along. And we've now been together 15 and a half years, I think. Yeah, there we go. But it was the old school online dating. It was the best. Like, send an email, wait for the reply. Like, you couldn't have a really long back and forth conversation. And we were in the early days, that's how it was. It was email. And then we met for our first date. We went for pizza, and look at us now. The rest is history, as they say. There was a question about, have we ever had any hate for being gay? And no, I don't think, not specifically. Like, I'm really open on the channel that I live with Mark. We have a wonderfully supportive family. We have wonderfully supportive friends, like the nieces and the nephew. They know that I've got 2 brothers, so we've got Uncle Matt and Auntie Katie, and Auntie Michelle and Uncle Reese, and Martin and Mark, Uncle Martin, Uncle Marty, Uncle Mark. We live, it's the most normal thing for them. That's how they've been brought up, that Martin lives with Mark, and Matthew lives with Katie, and Reese lives with Michelle. Fine. So we're incredibly lucky that we have, and I know that not everyone does have that, and that's where I like to do, like I did the Pride fundraiser this year, to raise awareness for, that was a specific charity, the Terence Higgins Trust. A few years before that, I did for Mind Out, which is a mental health charity for LGBT people. And I try to use, and I know that I'm in a privileged position, that I have a supportive family, I have a supportive group of friends, but not everyone is in that. So we're lucky that we've never had that specific. You see microaggressions, like every now and then, like you might feel brave and hold his hand walking down the street, and someone might look and you kind of pull your hand away because you're not sure, do they look in because they're going to say something. Like there's still little things like that it's still in the UK, even in Cardiff, in London, Manchester, like, so there are still some places that you feel uncomfortable holding someone's hand, for example, and it shouldn't be. Like, it's not a thing, right? So a man and a woman can hold a hand walking down the street, but I can't hold Mark's hand, but we've been together for 15 years. Like, it's a thing. So there are still things like that, but no, we are very lucky. And you folks here, especially as well, are super supportive. All the comments whenever I talk about Mark or the Pride fundraiser or anything like that, you folks have stepped up and supported me. So I feel really supported in this community that we're creating together, the same on Instagram. And that online social media gets a really bad press sometimes. And there are lots of bad things about social media, but there are also lots of good things about social media. Meeting up with new people, saying hi, making friends, making connections. So I kind of feel like I want to make that a positive channel and kind of have that positivity. There's no place for hate. It's a safe space for everyone, and the haters can just go and do you somewhere else and get away from my community, because 99.9% of people are super supportive and lovely. So yeah, no, I'm really incredibly lucky for that one. Food related question. For those not in the UK, what does a Sunday roast involve? And can you tell us more about chicken and roast veggies recipe? It looks delicious when you flash it. So, for those in the UK, we love a roast dinner. For those not in the UK, if you are in America, for example, think Thanksgiving, Christmas dinner, where you have, typically if you're a meat eater, you'll have a roasted joint. So you'll have turkey at Thanksgiving and Christmas. It might be a roast chicken. It might be some roast pork or roast beef. It's never lamb. Mark hates lamb, doesn't like the smell of it, won't have it in the flat. Like he's been away with work once, and I went to the butcher's and I got some really lovely leg lamb chops, and he walked in like 2 days later, he's like, "You've had lamb." Doesn't like it. So we don't tend to have lamb, but it's basically the roast dinner is a joint of meat with vegetables. So potatoes that you roast in the oven. We always do roasted carrots and parsnips. So Mark will put those in the oven and then just before they're due to come out, he drizzles some honey over them. So you have like honeyed carrots and parsnips. We'll do some form of green veg, whether that's peas if the kids are here because they love peas and mash, or it's broccoli or spring green cabbage, curly kale, and then it's basically all brought together with a gravy. And I make the gravy. I follow my grandfather's recipe. He taught me to make it as a child. I still make his recipe. So the roast dinner is basically that. It's some form of main event, like roast meat or like a pie or something with lots of veg. And generally, if I could eat a Christmas dinner or a roast dinner every single day, if someone made it for me every day, I would absolutely eat it. I'm so British when it comes to that. I love it. And if we're not around on a Sunday, we'll have a midweek roast so that we still get our roast dinner. It's a great way to get veggies. And when I'm being healthy, I will often then just not have potatoes. So we'll just have chicken, carrots, broccoli, cabbage, and some gravy, for example. So I won't have parsnips or potatoes. Bad carbohydrates for losing weight. So yeah, it's basically that's all a roast dinner is. But if you are American, or you understand in your head, like if whatever else you are in the world, if you think of a Thanksgiving dinner in America or a Christmas dinner, that's basically it. But we have it every week. And like in last week's video, you saw the family were all here. They all came round for roast. There was 8 adults, 4 kids. It was carnage, but lush. Big family times. We all try and get together. We actually went out for the roast yesterday, but we went out for roast. It was my parents' wedding anniversary, and they both retired. So we went out for a nice family roast, which was great because no one had to do the dishes. That was the best bit. There is, I don't know where, if I remember, I'll try and put the link in, but if you want to see, because I don't show it all the time, because like Mark's cooking and I'm here filming, the camera's on a tripod, and but Irina from Fibre Chats, for I think it was a 1-year anniversary or a subscriber count milestone, but she did a Fibre Chats cooking video where she asked people that she'd interviewed to share their favourite dish, and I filmed a little segment of us making the roast dinner, including I think carrots and parsnips on a chopping board, and I did a TikTok, smacked the knife, and then they were all cut. I don't know who I thought I was at that point. I was like, oh, look at me, I could do that. Like I could do a reel and a TikTok. So yeah, go and find that video if you want to see that specific, how we made the roast dinner. How do you find balance in work, exercise and crafting alongside fun adult time? Keeping the feelings of overwhelm at a minimum is something I struggle with. I just want to do all the things. Exactly the same. Just need some coffee. I am exactly the same. And there are only so many hours in the day. And there was another question about how does crafting impact your mental health? And I think you've just got to be kind to yourself and acknowledge that you can't do it all. I joke, I have the t-shirt, It'll All Get Done, that Sandy sent me. And yeah, when I'm in the headspace, I've not been in a very good exercise headspace lately. I've stayed the same, I've maintained my weight. So I'm really, really pleased with that because I've lost a lot of weight. And then over time, it creeps back on. But I've lost a lot of weight and it's kind of stayed off. I put the odd kilo on. But I'm still in the smaller clothes. I'm really, really happy and I'm really proud of myself. But when I was in that, I think it's about creating a routine. So I would really try and exercise in the morning. So my exercise is done. Then when I come home from work, I can then just sit on the sofa and I can knit or crochet because I've already done my exercise. But some days I've got to say, what's the priority? And my exercise and getting healthier was a priority. So if it meant that by the time I came home from work, I exercised, it was my turn to cook, I might not sit down till 9 o'clock. That's kind of why I have multiple projects and multiple whips, because then at 9 o'clock at night, you just want something that is mindless, stocking stitch, knit a row, purl a row, because you can't be working on something that's got a pattern that you really need to follow and need to concentrate on, because I haven't got the headspace at 9 o'clock at night to start something complex. And that's kind of where there's obviously the inevitable question, are you ever going to finish Mark's jumper? Yes, I will absolutely finish it. But again, it's the best thing I've ever knit. And it's really hard though. It takes about half an hour to do a knit and a purl row. So it's not quick. I've got, it's an all over Argyle jumper. If you're new here and you haven't seen Mark's jumper before, go back. There's a specific video again, about Mark's jumper when I was making the back. I finished the back. I'm up to about here on the front. So I'm not far off it, but I need a clear run to get back into the zone with it. It's not one of those that I can work on after work, for example. It's one of those, I've got a weekend, we're not doing anything at all, and I can work on it on Saturday, all the way through Saturday and into Sunday. So I think about finding that balance is very much, it's whatever is the priority, and knitting will always come lower down, say the healthy eating. But I do try and find, I'm not great at it. I still set my alarm in the morning. I'm going to get up at 6 and I'm going to go for a run. And then I'm going to go to the office and I'm still in bed at like 10 to 7. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm not, there are days when I absolutely fail at everything and I have the right approach. And then I just get a bit lazy. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting out of bed. I'm really tired. And I try to make peace with the fact that I can't do it all. And I'm okay with that. I try and set myself up for success as much as possible. So Mark usually, because he's the better cook, meal preps on a Sunday. So we have chicken and vegetables, for example, in the fridge. Overnight oats are made. So we then don't have to think what's for lunch. I don't have to then go to the canteen in work and get a sandwich and a bag of crisps because I'm on a business park in the middle of nowhere. So I can't just like nip out to get something healthy for lunch. So I try to set myself up by like meal prepping. If I am going to go for a run in the morning, I make sure that all my running stuff is out, my trainers are out. So that's one less barrier, because I'm lying in bed going, oh, I don't know where that running t-shirt is that I really need to wear. I can't go for the run without that t-shirt. Oh, but I need white socks to then go with, like, all these excuses as to why I can't go. So I make sure that I like get my running kit out, for example. So I try to like just prep as much as I can. And I think that's a really big benefit. But I also then genuinely have multiple whips, because then you can still be crafting, you can still crochet or knit or sew or whatever you want to do. And just try and do a little. This is the Knit 365 blog. It started as me blogging about trying to do a little something every day. And I try and do something, even if it is just 2 rows on that. Because if you do 2 rows every day, within a month, you'll probably have the back of it finished. So you can still make progress no matter how much progress you make. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I think it's that. Be kind to yourself, plan and prep, and have multiple whips. That's Martin's advice. Staying in crafting or going out, staying in crafting. I'm not a big going outer anymore. Like, hangovers are a real thing. Again, with my healthy eating, I've really reduced the amount of alcohol that I drink. Not necessarily because alcohol is bad for me, but I know as in the alcohol stops me losing weight, because I can still go out and have gins and slims. And I love a gin and tonic. Gin and slimline tonic, it's like 50 calories or something. Like, that's not going to make me put on weight. What the alcohol does is lets me, if I keep drinking, I'll then go, oh, we'll come home. Oh, I've got the nibbles, got the munchies, open that bag of crisps. Because you see Mark is tiny. He doesn't need to lose weight. So we have bad food. For me, no food is bad. But bad food for me that I shouldn't like snack on crisps. And once I've had a couple of drinks, I'm then like, oh, go on, get that bag of crisps. Let's go and get a McDonald's. Like, I'm really naughty. So for me, the alcohol it obviously reduces your inhibition. So it's about then I make bad choices. So I try to reduce the amount I drink. And sometimes I'll still go out and I'll have gin and tonic, and then I'll have a lemonade, but I'll ask them to put it in a gin and tonic glass. So actually no one knows that I'm not drinking. Like, my friends will know, but like, peer pressure is a thing, right? And isn't it? You're in a pub and people can see that you've got a drink. Oh, that guy's having a gin and tonic. I'm not. I'm having a diet lemonade. It's for me, for my health, and I don't need to justify myself doing it, but sometimes that kind of public peer pressure is a thing. But definitely staying in crafting. I'm really looking forward to having this week off work. There's going to be some days we're not going. Whatever Mark wants to do, but I'm going to have a couple of days on the sofa and just not do anything. How do you deal with all your whips? It gives me anxiety when you say you're starting something else. I think it is that, what I was just saying about like how you find balance and everything. I really try not to let it stress me out. And I love her, and I always joke when I see her that I talk about it in my podcasts. Ange from Yarn and Yarns was one of the reasons I got into podcasting, because I was watching her YouTube videos. It's like, oh, maybe I'll have a go at that. I love Ange's format, the project, and how she does her videos. But Ange's got like 30 whips, and every month she rolls a dice and she picks which whips. And again, completely, I enjoy crafting. I'm going to do what I enjoy. And it's all about the process rather than the number. And I think that's kind of the attitude that I take. I'm happy to have multiple whips. I love variety. And actually my projects are a difficult knit, a complex colour changing knit like Mark's jumper, a shawl, a pair of socks. I've got a couple of crochet amigurumi type projects on the go. I try to have variety, so I wouldn't usually have, I have got as a bad example, but I wouldn't usually have 3 or 4 shawls on the go, for example. I've got 2 shawls on the go at the moment. One is really easy and one is more complex, the Mcal. So I try to have variety in the project. So again, that I come home from work, oh, what will I work on? I haven't got the headspace for something with complex colour changing. Let's do something really simple. So let's just grab out that vanilla sock or that little baby cardigan because it's just knits and pearls. So I think that for me is the benefit of having multiple projects. And in terms of managing it, I kind of just gravitate to I let myself gravitate to what's going to give me joy, if that kind of makes sense. So at the moment, I really want to finish the Mcal because I want to get it done before the next one starts in October. So I'm all focused on that one now. But if I kind of reach a point, I'm like, oh, I just need a break. I can go and grab a sock or a hat or something else. So I don't have a specific way of doing it. I've tried a few different ways of prioritizing things, and some things work, some things don't. So yeah, that's kind of how I prioritize, and not let it get to me. Right, we've done most of the comments, so that is 50 minutes. So we've now got Mcal and favourites. So let's rattle through these, and then we'll be thereabouts timing-wise, I think. So mystery knit along, Stephen West, best time of the year. This is going to be my 6th, I think. I started with Starflake, Slip Extravaganza, Shawlography, Twist and Turns, Geogradient. Yes, 6th. I think that's right. What is your favourite West Knits shawl pattern for a West Knits newbie? So this is a great question, and Stephen says in the blurb for the mystery knit along. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you all will, but if you don't, knitwear designer Stephen West every October runs the mystery knit along, where we all get our pattern, we all cast on the same day, and we don't know what we're making. The pattern gets released over 4 Thursdays, and throughout October, we'll all work on the same project. There's a YouTube video that goes along with it, so you've got all the support for tips and techniques. Some folks jump straight to the end of the video each week to see where the pattern's going to end. Others have no surprises at all. They just follow the pattern and see where it takes them. The mystery is the best element of it. It's a huge worldwide knitting activity. People all around the world take part, and it's a huge community that Stephen's brought together. And in the blurb for the Mystery Knit Along, Stephen talks about, I think, adventurous beginners. And I genuinely feel, so the favourite Mcal is also my favourite thing I think I've ever knit, and it's Slip Extravaganza. This is a massive shawl. I think that's kind of why I like it. This was a 5 skein project, and it's a big one. And Kitey's actually making it. He made this first time round, and he's now making a second one. If you follow the Yarn Whisperer on Instagram, he's sharing his progress as he makes the second one before the next Mcal starts. But genuinely, it looks complicated. There are all these different sections, but if you can knit purl, increase and decrease, you can make this shawl. There are no complicated techniques in this other than knits, purls, increase and decreasing. So these yarn over holes, as you're knitting along here, you do yarn overs on the needle. That gives you this. I think that's how we did it. But you get the point I'm making. Like, the techniques themselves are actually all variations on knits and purls. This section here, these bumps are all purls. These are stocking stitch, so knits and purls, and you just slip the stitches in the middle. This is a slip stitch section. Similarly, this is a purl section, knits and purls there, slip stitches. I promise you, this shawl, if you can do those knits, purls, increase, decrease, you can make this shawl. So I feel like from an Mcal perspective, I think this is a really good one. There's no brioche. Brioche scares a lot of people. It's an amazing squishy texture, but in Stephen's patterns for the Mcal, if there's brioche, there will always be a non-brioche option. So you should never allow the fact that there could be brioche to put you off. So the question about my favorite shawl pattern for a West Knits newbie, I think there's this one. The one project that I did bring though is the dotted rays. So I've not made any more progress on this since I started. I'm doing a large one on some worsted yarn. Got this from Layla of the Urban Pearl. And this is a really popular pattern by Stephen. So if you've never made a shawl at all, a dotted rays is a great shawl because it's all garter stitch, so it's all just knits. And then every so often you've got these yarn overs to create the holes in the pattern. And it's been made thousands of times. It's a really beginner friendly shawl. So I think you've kind of got two options. If you want a beginner friendly shawl, absolutely, dotted rays, I think that is great. You can customize it really for any wool, any yarn. You can make it big, you can make it small. But if you're thinking mystery knit along, from the ones that I personally have done, I would say Slip Extravaganza. 5 skeins of yarn, it's an absolute big boy and I love it. And there was a question about what is my favorite Mcal, and it's this one. It's my go-to. If I'm in the office, I sometimes wear it at my desk if I'm cold. I love a big shawl and I'm really hoping. So one of the questions was any predictions or hopes for this year's. I really want, the last few years have been more wrap shape. And we've had changing directions where we've been picking stitches up. I'm not a fan of picking up stitches. I really want a shawl that grows. I can't remember which way we started, whether we started here or we started here and it grew out. I can't really remember. This was section 1 when we made this middle panel. But I can't remember if we cast it all on and then we decreased up, or we started there and we increased up. I'm not sure. The technique is the same though, but yeah, I love it. I don't know what I was saying then. I kind of lost my train of thought now, just getting excited by this. Oh yeah, I want to do a big shawl like this. So if I have a hope for this year's Mcal, it's a big wrap. Starting small and then working out. None of this picking up stitches in changing directions. I want an 800 stitch cast off at the end. And you absolutely just embrace your pace. As we all know, this one is my second Mcal. And we have Stephen now teasing this year's, and I haven't finished the second one. So there was a question about what's it going to be this year, team 1 or team 2? Definitely team 1. I definitely set myself a big mountain. It was going to be good blog content. I think it kind of still is because we've got 3 weeks to go. 3 weeks to go 4 weeks to go, I think, till it launches. And I still haven't finished the second one. So yeah, I'm not sure that I'm going to do 2. I'm going to wait for the kits to be announced. Stephen started doing all the teasers this week. Mark has come up with the most amazing idea. Stephen's teased it that says you need 2 colours. Mark has come up with the most amazing idea. So I'm really excited if we can make that happen. We're just going to look at the kits when they come out just to see what kits and how contrasty the colours are. But I do love that idea. And then part of me was like, oh, I really want a grello shawl, like a grey and a yellow. Because the other thing is I try to make different colours every year. So I'll do a preview about all the other shawls maybe in in another video before the Mcal, and we'll show off all the previous ones that I've made. If you're new here, you may not have seen all of my Mcal, so I'll show them all off, but they're all different colours. I don't have like all of my Mcals are blue. They're all completely different colours. So this shirt again will have a different colour palette. But I kind of told myself this year I wanted to do grey and yellow. And now Mark's come up with another idea, which is going to be chef's kiss. So maybe there will be two. But it will be one for the Mcal. Like, it'll be exactly the same as I did last year. There'll be one for the Mcal. If I happen to get ahead, I'll start the second one. But the second one will be, it'll take me 12 months to do. And as long as I do that, I've never knit the same pattern twice. So this is the first time I'm knitting it again. And as I said earlier, I think that slip stitch section is actually quicker the second time around, partly because you know what's coming, I think, but I'm really enjoying slipping the stitches. It's really soothing and really rhythmic. So yeah, we'll see about team 1 or team 2. Can beginners do Mcal? I've covered that one. I said absolutely, adventurous beginners, don't be put off. And this Stephen's videos are brilliant for giving you hints and tips and showing you where to put the stitch, and he does it for left-handers and right-handers depending on whether you're a picker or a thrower. So there's so much support. So absolutely, if you are a beginner, get involved as well. Don't be afraid. And Irina and I will be collaborating again, so you can always reach out to us if you want some support as well. But I'm sure you know that you have all the support you need from Stephen's videos. That was it for Mcal. Then someone did ask, and this is a really bringing the chaos, I think, like we're gonna have a fight. Mcal or Toft Advent? That is like choosing your favorite child. I can't, actually this is a neat segue. Again, this is like, I promise you I haven't planned this out. I just listed all the questions out. I did move them into categories, but it's like there's a neat segue now. They're both very different. And in the same way as I said about knitting and crochet, they both have completely different purposes. And in my head, I couldn't choose Mcal or Advent. I love that they are Mcal in October, Advent in December. So I don't need to choose. I can enjoy the process of both. But one of the things then, I've had some questions about what are my favorite things. So I had favorite make, favorite hand-dyed yarn that you own, favorite yarn. I don't really have favorites. So like, you'll never, I want to support people, and it's community, not competition. So I would never say, oh, X dyer is my favorite dyer, because I have lots of dyer friends who all have completely different styles. So if you want that specific color, then that dyer, that's them. If you want that specific style, you go to that. So I feel like I don't really want to have favorites and say, oh, my favorite dyer is X. In the same way as I am a big fan of Stephen West and his patterns, but he is one of my favorite designers. He's not the favorite, because I don't have a specific favorite. I would always favor a Stephen pattern for a shawl, for example. But there are other designers, like I'm a big fan of Martin Story for men's jumper patterns. They suit my personal style, they suit my fit. So again, it's not about having, he's the favorite. There's not one person. I have different designers that I would go to for different reasons and different purposes. And I feel like that in that favorite, then it's not Mcal or Advent. They're both important, and I love doing both and taking part in that community stuff. And that's where I feel like it's hard to then say what my favorite designer is or my favorite color. I'm a blues. Blues are my natural colors, but I have lots of other colors. There will be teals, variation on the blue, but I've got grays and yellows, and I really like, again, depending on what your mood is, some days you wake up and you just want to wear something gray. And other days you wake up and you want to wear something bright and orange. And I feel like that's probably where I get to with designers and dyers and makers. So I'm not going to necessarily list out, this is my favorite designer, that's my favorite dyer, because I think everyone has a value, everyone has an input. And I will tend to go to a collection of different people depending on what I'm looking for. Favourite Toft make, that's an easy one, I think, because it's one that I've made, and you saw her earlier. Oh. So this is the Maranta Fascinator, and this was a pattern for Kew Gardens last year, where Kerry and the team went out from Toft and they hosted a crochet workshop. She is a prayer plant, so the plant in the wild, in the night time, the leaves lift up and show off the underside. And what Kerry's done with this pattern is then be able to put modelling wire in to create that, and then in the daytime, the leaves lower down. So this is one of my favourites for many reasons, because I think it's such a funky design. It's very cool having the modelling wire in and having the detail. Mine's called Mandy the Maranta, and we've got an actual plant of it as well. I also love it because I got to go to a Toft workshop and be part of the team for the weekend. So I got to wear an apron with Toft on it, and it was a really special memory for me. So I'm happy to pick a favourite Toft make, because I think it's this, because it's got more memories with it rather than it just being a really funky design. I'm also a massive fan of Morag. We're coming to an end now, so I'll move the camera. I'm also a massive fan of Morag. She's still up, bless her. Hop back, there's a project video making Morag. Meet Morag, I think it's called, where I made Morag the giant coup, and she now sits on the wall. So I've got a few favourite Toft makes. Coming up though, some of you, if you've seen on Instagram, there has been a small spoiler. The video will go into it even more. It is a spoiler, but it's not a spoiler. I'm an incredibly lucky bear that I've been made into an animal. Meet Martin Bear. So this is in the latest edition of the Toft Quarterly magazine, and Martin Bear joined the menagerie. I have made a couple of Martin Bears now as we've been testing the pattern, so I think that's probably going to be my favourite Toft make ever, because I got to feed into the design process. That's the super exciting video that is coming later this week. So I will leave that there for the video coming up, but the video will follow. I did 2 days at Toft HQ in June, and you follow me making it from Kerry doing some sketches all the way through to creating the finished kit. Yeah, so I think that's probably going to be my favourite make ever. And then I think that's all of my favourite ever knitted make is probably this one as well. I just love it. I do think, I said I'm going to try and have a sort out through the wardrobe this week and take some clothes to the charity shop. I'll grab all of the hand knits, and maybe there's another video at some point about all the jumpers, the shawls. I can kind of show some of the projects that I've made in the past, if that helps inspire some of you into some of the projects that I've made. So I might try and do that in another video. But that shawl is definitely, it's my lying on the sofa, I'm a bit cold. It's my, I'm in work. It's winter, I'm going out for the pumpkin spice latte, stick a little layer on with a t-shirt. Love it. Quick fire, will you ever finish Mark's jumper? Yes, I will. I talked about that earlier in the video. Bookshelf tour, we will do that in another video, because this is getting a bit long now to show you all the books. We don't read as much as we used to, so please don't be under any illusions that this is the bookshelf. It's like a branch of my own independent bookstore, and we read prolifically. We read, but not as much. I don't read as much anymore because I now knit. And I've not worked out how I can knit and crochet. I knit and read at the same time. I have an iPad. I have the odd book on my iPad. I prefer the physical, being in the moment. If I'm on my iPad, it's too easily to be distracted to nip to Instagram to read that email. Even if I've put on airplane mode, something, so I'm using my iPad, someone should, oh, I didn't reply to that email, so I'll go and, so I don't really like the digital. My mum's got an iPad and she reads everything on her iPad. She loves it. That's not for me though. I prefer the physical. So we have lots of books. There are loads of business and leadership type books because I think that is something that I really enjoy reading about. There's lots of novels on there. There's lots of autobiographies. This whole final section here then, that's all cookbooks because we're big cooks. So I will do a separate video, maybe in Vlogtober when we're doing kind of like 3 videos a week. I'll dig deep into the bookshelf and we'll show some of those off. So we'll do a bookshelf tour. Are you going to the Southern Wool Show? No, I'm not. I am going to Unravel with Gemma, Nick and Kitey. So I will be at the Unravel show. It is Friday and Saturday, the 13th and 14th of September. So I will be at Unravel, not at Southern. Any plans to visit Canada? Would love to visit Canada. No immediate plans. We are in the middle of planning next year's. We think we're going to have a big holiday with my brother, one of my brothers. I would love to go to Canada and meet the bears. It would be one of those, go for 3 weeks, maybe even 4, like go and explore. If you're going to go all that way to Canada, I would want to do it and do a little tour and things. So whoever asked that question, absolutely, I would love to come to Canada. No immediate plans, but it's definitely on the planning for holidays at some point. And that is all of my questions. Just over an hour. That's not too bad. By the time we did the introduction and showing what I'd knit. So I think I did speak quite fast. Maybe. I don't think I waffled too much. Hopefully that was interesting. It was actually quite nice for me to have to think about some of the answers as I saw the questions coming in. So I hope we've had a bit of variety in terms of what I've talked about, what I've shared. I hope you found that interesting. Let me know in the comments below if there are any other questions and I'll gather them up and maybe we'll do another one at some point. But yeah, let me know some of the things that I've talked about, the roast dinner, barrow breath versus Welsh cakes. Get involved in the comments below. But also, you know, things like how do you fit your knitting in? Are you a reader? Are you an e-booker? Exercise knitting, you know, I've talked about how I tackle some of these things, but I'm absolutely, you know, that's just how I do things myself. If you've got other ideas, hints and tips for folks about how you plan in your crafting around work, around life, please, any hints and tips below, let us know. So we'll leave this video here now. I'm gonna just edit this together and then get this uploaded to the YouTube to hopefully get put live today, Monday, and you can all get involved and watch it. I will be back with a video later this week, either Thursday or Friday. So 2 videos this week, hopefully you lucky devils. And I can't wait for you all to meet Martin Bear. I'm going to do a bear along. We'll all make the same bear together. And yeah, more about that in that video coming up. So I hope that you enjoyed that one. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. As usual, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you are not yet a subscriber. We are so close to 10,000 and it would be amazing to get there for or during the Mission Knit Along in Vlogtober. Can't wait for Vlogtober, favourite time of the year. Right, I'm going. I'm hungry now as well. It's 12:30, so I'm going to go and get some lunch. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough to want to know a bit more about me. I hope that's been interesting and a fun video for you to watch along and do some crafting. So I'll be back later in the week where you get to meet Martin Bear. So until we speak again, happy crafting.